Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the European crossover webinar. And we just got some data come in. German IFO business came in at 90.7, waiting for conditions and expectations to come out. Those conditions just came out at 90. They were expecting 87, and expectations, we're waiting for that to come out now. Expect at 91.5. So coming in today, we did have a Spanish GDP, which came in a bit stronger. Actually, I said Spanish, it should be German GDP, French business climate. And then coming in later on, we will have UK CBI distributive trades. And then Mexican data coming in. Core inflation, that's going to be at 7 a.m. Eastern. As we roll into the States, we'll have monthly home prices at 9 a.m. Eastern with Case-Shiller also at 9 a.m. and at 10 a.m. consumer confidence. We are seeing NASDAQ and S&Ps come off a bit here. Not a whole lot, but you can see the S&Ps made it to 3606. 3603 is key, and we've dipped down to 98. Also here in the NASDAQ, I mentioned this in the Asian session, this is 11,977. And we have finally kind of taken a little bit of dip here. Not anything huge, but we did get below same-day VWAP and just kind of pressed it a bit. Not a whole lot, but I am a little bit concerned here because everything that the market was looking for to launch a leg up has now happened, but it's like they say, several days late and several dollars short. So now we've already started the month-end rebalancing for equities. We already saw a pretty good sell-off in equities yesterday. As you can see right here, look at Apple. Look how Apple finished. Now that it's higher right now in after hours. We can come here, bear with me. So if we move on here, we'll take a look at it on 30-minute. You can see here we're pushing up a little bit higher, but still it was a terrible close overall. So you can see here how across the board, you can see these are weak closes across the board for NASDAQ, or what I like to sometimes refer to as the Big Eight. Very, very poor closes. Tesla was okay, and Google's been up here, but we can pull up the Tesla right quick. You can see that here on the daily. Look at Netflix here also. Very poor. All these are very, very poor closes, which kind of lends credence. I mean, would lend the support for that month-in selling. But of course, then we got the news of the GSA that those funds would be released for the Biden administration. And then, of course, they did. Joe Biden is going to have Janet Yellen for Treasury Secretary. So all those push the market higher and really opens the door for us. Technically, we could push higher. We're not that far away, but like I said, we've paired back. We haven't paired back that much, but we have paired back a little bit here. We can go in and take a look on the 2-hour chart. And you can see here, we're pressing right up against here. You can see here on the NASDAQ, it wouldn't take much to just blow some stops, and before you know it, we could gun some stops. But of course, like I said, there's that month-in rebalancing, which is actually going to put some weakness. And you can see that already, as we talked about, we showed in equities, cash equities, that we like to sometimes call them the Big Eight. You can see here with the S&P, same thing, holding up very well up in here. Here's on the 30-minute, and S&P is on the 2-hour. Look at that. So we're not that far away that we could actually break a little bit higher. And that's why I think it's a little bit tricky. I mean, if you look at the overall um, selling that they were looking at or month end certainly puts the onus um, on the bulls. They're going to try and push up a little bit higher. We've actually started to break a little bit higher on the S&Ps, but you can see NASDAQ would have to press further. So tough to say, as I'm saying, being a little bit cautious today because of that. Because, and like I said, we haven't come off that much, but that's my concern is that maybe as we come to the States, we try and make a press here. I kind of believe that it would be a bit of a false break, could be wrong. But as I mentioned, when you look here on the equities, look at it. Those are poor, very poor closes. And we talked about this maybe well over a week ago that there was a potential for this thing to finally pair back across the board. And you're seeing that. Look at that. These are very, very, I hate to say it again, but these are very, very poor closes. Back on the daily, you can see very poor closes across the board on these daily closes. Very poor. So it seemed to suggest that we will go on and get that lower move. But like I said, then you look at what has transpired. Now that those funds got released, it kind of like takes a little bit of those concerns. But then also the cabinet selections looks like they would be able to be appointed even if there was a Republican controlled Senate. Also, Janet Yellen, the street likes her. She's a dove. So all that would lead towards a move higher, which we did initially see in Asia. And could we push higher here and then fell back? I think it's going to be tricky with equities, with the next, all the way into the year, end of year, I should say. You can see here, Euro's pressing a little bit higher here. I have to look here where the cash price is. That's obviously on the futures. Cash price on euro is 18.75. So we're right back up here again. Cable at 33.75. We'll get to those in a little while. Let's go on and take a look at the stories. So risk-related currencies, including the Australian dollar and the euro, rose on Tuesday after President Trump accepted the state of transition to the Biden regime. That may include former Reserve Chair Janet Yellen as Treasury Secretary. So what I'm saying is, you see, these all lend. He didn't have a choice. This wasn't about him. It's just that at this point, after the certification in Michigan, he tried to have the lawmakers come to the White House, and they weren't going to switch over. So the certification, I think he's had 38 lawsuits, and all of them except 2 have been, or 3 have been thrown out. So it really had no choice. So, and he was starting to get some pressure from some Republicans in Congress. So really had nothing to do with him. But this with Janet Yellen as Treasury Secretary, and then also the cabinet selections look favorable. Like I said, had this happened about a week and a half ago, we'd probably be going blasting like crazy. We did move higher. Now, whether or not they can keep those gains, we're already now into month in, and they're looking at rebalancing 36 billion. So that's what I'm saying. That's why we were open to move lower, and the cash equity closing price looked terrible. So New Zealand dollar was among the major gainers, 2-year high, 69.85. Trump gave the head of the General Services Administration the go-ahead to proceed with transition to a government led by Joe Biden. Democrat allies to the Biden campaign said Yellen is expected to be nominated to become Treasury Secretary, heartening investors as she's called for increased government spending to lift the economy out of a coronavirus-induced recession. And that's what I'm saying. This would lead to more spending, but spending like on a big term type of thing where you'd see a lot of expansion, and that would open the door for much higher prices in equities. Like I said, it's several days late, several dollars short in the sense, I mean, really way late, more than 2 weeks late. But if we would have seen these moves, this happened, we would have seen a big rally. Now it's too late, essentially. We've already started to see, like I said, month-end selling. We're starting to pare back. So now, instead of looking at the glass half full, now the market looks at the glass as half empty. We saw a rally, but once again, like I said, well, I don't know. That glass looks half empty. It doesn't look half full to me. And that's how the market's looking at it right now. So the only thing is, technically, as I said, we could push higher. We were just here just a few moments ago, and we were holding up here. We weren't moving. And look at, right here with the S&Ps still holding up very well. This 3603 is key, and we're just 3 handles away from it. So Yellen has called for the opening of fiscal spending taps to revive an economy wrecked by the coronavirus, and would be the first person to head the Treasury, the Fed, and the White House Council of Economic Affairs. So she's got total experience. Like I said, not only was she head of White House Council of Economic Advisors in the Clinton White House, of course, she was Fed head in Obama's term, and now she'll be Treasury Secretary. So she's got, excellent, capability as far as not only contacts, but the acceptance of the street and the ability to manage this or get done, which would be opening up the spigots for spending. In contrast, Secretary Mnuchin last week let some of his Fed lending programs expire at the end of this year, opening a feud with the central bank, which said the emergency facilities are important to support the economy. Against a basket of other major currencies, the dollar was a bit lower. So that's it there. No other news. Moment. Well, let's go and move on. So, also, we want to take a look at gold. Remember, we were looking for that move in gold down to come down into the zone, which we did, and we bounced off the zone. We're a little bit lower, which probably makes some sense because, like I said, once you get a big move like that, then we have to test the downside a little bit. But I think this is a little bit overdone here now. We'll probably try and find some area of support. We probably should go and move this into February, so bear with me. Let's see if we probably have to put 0 in front. Oh no, we'll have to do that later. Oh, I guess I already did it now. So it's February now. Okay. Well, anyway, you see where we're at. And so we've rolled over into the February gold. So with that, let's go on and get started with the analysis. So the euro posted a long-legged doji on Monday, suggesting a pause in the upside move. The pair is open to a move back to 1759 with initial support at 1814. Resistance will be 1887. So 1814 and 1887. We'll move into the cable. Amira says if you can look at natural gas, platinum, and palladium. Yeah, we'll get to those. Bear with me. So looking at cable. So cable posted a large range for the day, which was Monday, because I did this analysis last night in Asia. Well, actually late Asia, because I fell asleep very early and got up and then just stayed up for the rest of the night. Cable posted a large range for the day, but managed to close positive for the day. Resistance will remain 33.82. We're just about there right now. We talked about the significance of this 82 with support at 32.63. So, and we've talked about this. I've mentioned it several times. The key is the bodies. That's where you find your support and resistance. And then if you can get them to confluence with some wicks, that makes it even stronger. But you can see the significance of 33.82. And we'll move on to the Aussie dollar. Pretty good. Look at this move in Aussie. Holy smokes. So the Aussie once again challenged 73.30, but was unable to scale that level on a closing basis. Resistance will now be 73.45 with support at 72.68. So it looks like maybe we'll try and make that move, but 73.45 and support at 72.68. This Kiwi is something else. Holy smokes. So the Kiwi closed at another new high on Monday. Resistance will remain 69.75. We're above that right now with support at weekly level 68.96. Holy smokes. So the only difference is we'll move this to 68.96. And this will be, I don't know why that was that low because wasn't the correct amount. 69.75. And we'll move on to the dollar CAD. We talked about this and we talked about this holding it, but as I said, it has not. We had our buy chart resistance at 31.12 yesterday, and that's exactly where it went to, and then it fell back. But once again, I said, in order for us to put in a short-term bottom, we're going to have to get a daily close above 31.12, and we never did. It was open to doing it on Friday. We couldn't do it. We couldn't do it yesterday. So the dollar CAD remains stuck in its range of 30.37 to 31.12. Support on Tuesday will be 30.17 with resistance at 31.03. So 30.17. Onto the dollar peso. This thing is just sick as a dog. So the dollar peso remained weak, but managed to close above 20 cents even. Resistance on Thursday will be 2018 with support at 19.98. And on to the dollar yen. I don't know if y'all heard that, but over the squawk, you said that Goldman Sachs is opening up their office in Paris. They're moving their trading They'll be trading in dark pools and moving it out of the UK. Gotta think that this would kind of weigh on cable, So anyway, but I don't know if you can hear that. Maybe you only hear what's on, it comes across the mic. But anyway, that being said, Dalian saw a stark rally on Monday, challenging the 452 level. Remaining resistance on Tuesday will be 475 with support at 420. And on to the cash dollar index. So the dollar index made a stand at 92.06, but was unable to close above 92.50. Resistance on Tuesday will be 92.87 with support at 92.20. And we're right there at the 92.20. And on to the Kiwi yen. Oh boy, we are blowing and going on this Kiwi yen. Holy smokes. We had resistance at 72.28, and that's even going beyond that. Let's take a look where we are on a weekly. That's key if we can get above 72.27. That's actually 72.77. And we'll just go with that as resistance, 72.77. That's a weekly. And support on the daily, we have to be that body right there. And confluence with that wick, 72.15. Onto the euro pound. Well, we had 88.75. It held yesterday. I mean, it took some stops a little bit below it, but overall it held. And we're going to keep it. So 88.75. And on the upside, we had 89.32. You see this body right there? That's 89.03. I mean, it wouldn't be that much to press it beyond that. And that lower wick here is 13. Let's go with that 89.13 on the upside. Onto the euro odd. We had 61.52 yesterday for the low, and and it's actually below that at this point. It's actually pressing below. The Aussie is very strong. The only thing we can press is these two wicks right there, and that would be 61.23. So we'll just go with that. If it gets below that, then all heck's going to break loose. And then on the upside, this wick right here, you see that one right there? That comes in right there at 61.90. And onto the Euro QE. The wick right there, see that? That's confluence with these two wicks. That would actually be 69.62, which is where they went to. So let's go with that, 69.62. So be careful with this Kiwi because the Kiwi yen, it's at weekly resistance. And on the Euro Kiwi, it's coming into some weekly support. So be careful with this. Although against the dollar, it's still pretty strong. And then on the upside, right there, 70.54. Onto the Aussie yen. Doing well, but you can see right there, see that body right there? That's going to be resistance, which is 76.75. With support, right there, if we were to get a pullback, that wick there, which would be 76.30. Onto the guppy. Oh boy, we're cruising along. Boy, did we see a solid day yesterday. So on the upside, all these touches coming across here, and you have this one wick. Let's go with that 39.59 on the upside. And support right there. It comes in almost with that wick too. To be 38.56. And lastly with the sterling odd. Wow, boy, what a turnaround. Look at that. Almost an engulf. It almost, if it would have been a little bit higher, it would have been a perfect engulf, bearish engulf, but you can see where the support is this level. Let's go with that, which is 81.60. And right here, this body, right there, 82.02. And well, we've held that area. Remember, I think we talked about that natural gas. Key would be right now, right there, 273.60. And right now we're at 272.70. To get above this area right there, that's going to be some resistance right there. See right there? So that's resistance. You'll see some a little bit of selling as you make it up there. That's on a 2-hour, and on a daily, that's actually the previous high up there. See that? If they can get a daily close above that, it would open up the door for them to still mount higher. They would run into some resistance on this lower bar, which would be 281.40. And then, well, yeah, he says we're 283, but this is this is showing the front month contract. So, I mean, what you can do is if you want to go on and look at the spread on that, just the same way like when I look at the spread between the futures and the cash in FX. So maybe the natural gas is already rolled over into January or whatever, and so maybe there's that spread. So if it's trading at a you're saying it's 83 and this is basically 73, then just go on and factor in 10 cents. So if I'm saying the resistance is going to be basically 274, then you're looking at 284. So you just make that spread right there. But I mean, this is just showing the front month contract on that. Looking at platinum. We did hold this area here. You can see all these touches, and I always talk about all the amount of touches. You see what I'm saying? Here's a body right there, but look at all these touches with the wick, and that ended up holding this market here. And that was 917.40, and the low was looks like 919, basically 920. So basically off by what, $2, and look how much we've rallied up here. But you can see the how much confidence you have going across these wicks. So today we've jumped back on this after that sell-off we saw yesterday in gold, although gold's still weaker, but we've kind of made a rebound here. So if you look at it on a 2-hour chart, you can see a lot of touches coming across right across there, which is 949.80. But any moves up in here, it's going to have some trouble. And if you look here, 50% of this body right there is pretty much right where we came in right there. You see? So that's probably, they'll have a tough time. Even if 50% of this body, it looks like a good area for them to go in and lay some off. And as long as we hold, it has to hold this area, 924. And then looking at Palladium. Look at this weekly. Saw a good solid close, only to turn around and give it all up. And then we try and make a stand. Last week, in a very tight range, we're actually not holding up too bad considering everything that's happened with gold. Although they're different markets, but nonetheless, looking at a daily, it needs to hold this area, this 2312, and that's on a daily. And really, when you look at it, look at this level going across here. You see, 2312. As long as we can hold that 2312. But you can see that was a terrible close here on Netflix. Netflix has been weaker anyway, but I'm just saying this is similar to what you've seen across the board in the Big 8. They're just a tad bit higher in the pre-market. Tesla's just been way up here in the stratosphere. And then coming back, as I mentioned, look at Apple. Terrible close. So 113.85, we'll see where it is in pre-market. 114.50, just a little bit higher. And look at Microsoft. Look at Amazon. These are all terrible closes. Facebook came off of that 264 support, but everything looks susceptible to just a downside draft. So that's what I'm saying. Even though things kind of lined up, it's basically too late. I mean, yeah, things lined up, and Yellen would be a perfect Treasury secretary, and that would open the door for good spending, blah blah blah. But it's honestly, it's just too late at this point. We'll see what happens. I mean, that's why I'm leaving the door open because of technicals. But we're already looking at $36 billion rebalancing of equities, and it looks like, and they look like they're showing it too. So it just, the door's open for us to move lower. But anyway, that's about it. Thanks for joining us here on the European crossover webinar. And Charles says, my first time here, how long have you been streaming? Well, Charles, we have our European crossover webinar at this time at 4 a.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday. Of course, we're going to have Thanksgiving, going to be, won't be all the way through the week. But what we do is, I don't know if you came in right at the very beginning, and glad to have you here. What we do is we take a look at where we stand here with FX, and then we do then we cover the news off of Reuters to give basically like a flavor of what the day is looking at. And then we do the bias chart, which this bias chart is more towards, whether you're a scalper or a day trader, it's geared towards that. Okay, so we look at these. I'll give you an example. It's not always the case. Like yesterday, my resistance on the euro was 1905, and the high was 1906, and the low was 1812, and the low for the day, I think, was at 1799 or 98, something like that. But anyway, it's geared towards shorter term trading. It doesn't mean that you have to use it as a scalper. What you want to do is use it in conjunction with your own analysis and say, oh, well, I'm looking to get short the euro. And you go, oh, well, he's got resistance there. I've got some resistance, basically confluence. You know what I mean? But these levels are good for the next 24 to 30 hours. That's what I always tell everybody. So same thing here. Yesterday we had 33.82. We saw that key level in the cable, and I think we got up to 33.96, but then we ended up falling out of bed with the cable. But we've come back. But that's what I'm saying. So we cover the majors, and then the cross rates here, several cross rates here that are popular, and then we'll take a look at some other markets. We don't follow gold that closely, but we had been looking. I posted this chart. Now it's on the February gold, but this was the December gold, and we looked at this 2 months ago, and I was looking for a move down here. You can see here, we came down here, and I was looking for a move in between 1827 to 1844, and yesterday we were trading around here, and we broke right into that range. I think on the D-Skull, though, we're a little bit weaker. We're trading at 1819 or something like that. This is on the February gold. So we take a look at the NASDAQ, and we take a look at the S&Ps, and then we do the analysis, and then we'll take a look at what I like to refer to as the Big Eight, which is going to be Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Google, NVIDIA, Facebook, and then, of course, Tesla and Netflix. And we try and take a look at the news for the day also. Not that we're following fundamentals, but what's the tone? And that's what we're talking about, was that, like I said, well, the market's looking at $36 billion in equity rebalancing on the sell side for the end of the month. And you can see how we got whacked pretty good here in cash equities, and how the market's really in a tough situation now. I mean, now we've got, like I said, the market was looking for, further an expansion of spending, almost like Biden doing what's referred to as FDR's New Deal. And you couldn't have picked a better Treasury Secretary than Janet Yellen to facilitate that. Of course, Republicans may still have control of the Senate. We don't know. We'll have to see how those two races go through in Georgia, which will be the first week of January. But the point is now, with all the stuff that went on, now the markets are basically just sold off. You see that? You saw a pretty good sell-off yesterday. Look at these closes. Look at these. These are daily closes. They look terrible. Look at that. You see what I'm saying? Basically, it looks like it's just ready about to go on and slide. Maybe like in NVIDIA, we slide down here towards 480. Facebook, we did come down to 264. That's been weaker. Google maybe closed the gap at 1643. Apple comes down here. It's 113.85. We probably make a move down here towards this 106. I'm saying everything looks like, look at Amazon. This looks like these should make a move down here towards 29.66. Everything looks sloppy. So now you got the indices move higher on that news, but it's basically too late. You see what I'm saying? And now at the end of the month, but we have the potential that we could blow a little bit higher, blow some stops, and then with a fake, and then come back in. That's what I'm saying. So not sure how to go with this one today. This one's going to be a little bit tricky today. You can look at the SPOOs. Here's the NASDAQ on 2-hour chart. You see, we were just right there. We rallied up in Asia. So it wouldn't take much to blow the doors up in here. We'll have to see how things open up. But my thinking is we blow some stops, and then it kind of sits there, and maybe we come back down here and open the door for them to pull lower. We'll see. But anyway, that's all we have. Thanks. Yeah, they do record the sessions. He said, okay, thanks. That you'll be on tomorrow. Yeah, we're on every day of the week. Do you record the sessions? Yes, the sessions are recorded. Stelios posts the sessions in the chat room around 6 a.m. Eastern, and then it's available later on YouTube. But thanks for joining us here, and we'll catch you in the chat room.